Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves on Earth, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than the United States. And right now, Venezuela's leader Nicolás Maduro has been detained by US authorities and transferred to New York. The United States government has not publicly confirmed this, because years ago, under Donald Trump, the United States stopped treating Venezuela as a diplomatic problem and started treating it as a criminal one. Federal indictments were filed in US courts, serious charges that still exist today. And once power becomes a criminal liability, stepping down stops being an option. To understand how Venezuela reached this point, you have to understand how the country collapsed in the first place. Because this was not bad luck, and it was not inevitable, it was systemic. Oil does not just make countries rich, it changes how governments behave. In countries funded by taxes, leaders depend on citizens. In countries funded by oil, leaders depend on exports. That difference is everything. For decades, Venezuela looked untouchable. Oil revenue paid for infrastructure, imports, and public services. The currency was strong. The middle class expanded. Caracas looked more like Miami than a struggling capital. But there was a hidden flaw. The economy did not need to be productive, and the government did not need to listen closely to voters, because oil money absorbed mistakes until it stopped. There is a date Venezuelans still remember: February 18th, 1983, Black Friday. The currency was suddenly devalued. Savings lost value overnight. Imports became expensive immediately, but the real damage was psychological. People learned the rules could change without warning. Trust never fully returned, and once trust breaks, anger fills the gap. Anger at elites, anger at institutions, anger at a system that looked wealthy but felt rigged. That anger reshaped politics, and it reshaped power. This is where many explanations go wrong. Venezuela did not collapse because it spent money. It collapsed because institutions stopped limiting power. Courts lost independence. Economic decisions became political decisions. Technical expertise became optional, and nowhere was that more damaging than in the oil industry itself. In the early 2000s, Venezuela's oil sector shut down during a massive strike. The government responded by firing more than 18,000 employees from the national oil company, engineers, managers, specialists. Oil production is not automatic. It relies on geology, chemistry, logistics, and maintenance. When expertise is removed at that scale, production does not recover. Even when oil prices later surged, Venezuela could not fully benefit. The system looked strong, but it was hollow, and hollow systems fail suddenly. By the mid-2010s, the collapse became impossible to hide. Inflation accelerated, then spiraled, then exploded. This was not normal inflation, it was hyperinflation. Prices changed weekly, then daily, then hourly. Money stopped functioning as a store of value. Then it stopped working as a unit of account. Savings evaporated, salaries became meaningless, and once money stops coordinating society, power fills the vacuum. Governments under pressure rarely admit failure, they rename it. Venezuela removed zeros from its currency multiple times. That did not fix inflation, it hid it. Numbers became smaller, reality became harsher. And when economic tools fail, control replaces competence. As conditions deteriorated, protests grew, so did repression. Not because protest was new, but because coordination is dangerous to collapsing systems. Control the courts, control the media, control food distribution. Opposition stops being political, it becomes personal. And once daily life becomes unstable, leaving becomes rational. More than 7 million Venezuelans left the country, not because of war, but because hospitals lost power. Pharmacies lost medicine, jobs lost wages. This was not a refugee crisis, it was an evacuation, and it permanently weakened the country's ability to recover. This is where the outside world stepped in, especially the United States. For years, the United States treated Venezuela as a diplomatic problem. Sanctions on individuals, statements condemning abuses, calls for elections, nothing fundamentally changed. Then the approach shifted. Under Donald Trump, the United States reframed Venezuela as a criminal case. Federal prosecutors unsealed indictments accusing Venezuela's leadership of corruption, money laundering, and narcotics trafficking. Not sanctions, criminal charges. This was a turning point. Because criminal charges do not expire, They freeze assets. They restrict travel. They follow individuals indefinitely. Power stopped being just political. It became legal survival. Here is the paradox. When leaders believe losing power means prosecution, they do not compromise, they entrench. Pressure increases control, not reform. Sanctions can be negotiated around. Diplomatic isolation can be endured. Criminal indictments change incentives completely. This approach did not fix Venezuela's economy, but it locked the system in place, because power no longer had a safe exit. Today, that pressure still exists. Sanctions relief is conditional. Oil licenses expand and contract. Negotiations stall and restart. But the underlying damage remains. Institutions are weak. Trust is shattered. And millions of people are still gone. Venezuela did not collapse because it lacked oil. It collapsed because accountability disappeared, because loyalty replaced competence, because institutions were dismantled faster than trust could survive. This is not a left-wing story, or a right-wing story, it is a power story. And once a state learns it can survive without its people thriving, collapse stops being temporary, it becomes stable. That is the warning, because Venezuela is not just a tragedy, it is a case study in what happens when power outlives prosperity.